Hey there, my name is Rachael and welcome to the Magdala Podcast. We at Magdala know from experience that pornography, masturbation, and other sexual addictions are not just a guy problem. The need for women to be accompanied in the journey towards healing from addiction has gone sorely unmet, and that's why we're here. Magdala exists as a space where women can find hope, healing, and freedom alongside each other from sexual addiction. Our goal is to supply you with support, community, and accountability. Here on the podcast, you'll find everything from testimonies to practical advice to dialogue about how to heal and live fully as a Catholic woman. Wherever you are in your journey, know that you're not alone, and we welcome you to this table. Hey everybody, welcome to the Magdala Podcast. Magdala is a space of honesty, hope, and healing for women struggling with sexual addiction. And it is the resource that I needed years ago, along with many, many other women who I've had the privilege of speaking to. So today we're going to intro something called the Coffee Date series, which is just basically if you and I went out to coffee and you told me you were struggling with this, what would I say? And we're doing this both so your own heart can perhaps hear some feedback on where to even begin to overcome this struggle, but also so that those of you out there who have been in situations like this or have friends who are struggling, maybe you have a little more guidance on what to say to those women in your life. So I have been writing and speaking about my own story of struggle with pornography for over 5 years now. In my senior year of college, I helped found a support group for men and women who are trying to find accountability to overcome addiction, and I ran the women's portion of that ministry. So Magdala is essentially the online version of what we did in college. And so I had many of these coffee dates with lots of women talking about porn and masturbation on any given day of the week. So I want to break this conversation down into 3 parts, and I'm going to kind of go off the cuff and just say what's come to my heart and mind in prayer, and also what I've seen work and really not work and experience. So breaking this down into 3 parts for episode 1, what I want to focus on is the question, what do you want? If you sat across from me holding that cup of coffee in your hand and you said, Rachael, for 5 years, I've been addicted to pornography, or Rachael, for 8 years, I just can't seem to get away from masturbation. What I would first ask you is, what do you want? What are your desires? And when we led our small group in college, this was what the entire first meeting was about, was the question of desire, of what do you want? Because one of the most difficult things about being a woman who struggles with pornography or masturbation or things of the like is feeling like you cannot desire anything good. You cannot desire good things, that you're dirty or disordered, especially because of the stigma that this is a male issue. You feel even more dirty, even more ashamed of yourself, even more disordered, because you're like, this isn't even a female problem. I'm not even, running with the pack on this issue. I'm alone, right? Yet, yeah, lust is disordered, but that doesn't mean you are. And too often there's this pendulum swing of shutting down desire because we become so afraid of it, because it's become so disordered in our life. That we think the best way to overcome these struggles is to shut down any form of desire. And that doesn't work. That's not actually the answer, right? Because your good desires say a lot more about you than your sexual sin ever could. What you truly want says so much more about you than an addiction to pornography or masturbation, right? And God created you to desire the good. Him is the ultimate good, and believing otherwise is what keeps us trapped, right? It's the crazy cycle that Satan keeps us in. We sin, and then we think we deserve nothing more than what we just did. And that's what Satan tells us. He says, you fell, therefore you only deserve to fall. You don't deserve anything good. You cannot advance, right? And he keeps us trapped. And so all we do is sin again. We settle, right? Well, your heart was made to desire an infinite good, and the only good that satisfies, which is the love of God, right? So ask yourself, if you're presently struggling, what do I want? What do I want? What do you truly want that maybe you even feel like you're not allowed to want? Am I the questions that come to our minds when we're struggling is like, can I even desire love? Can I even want a relationship? Can I even want marriage and family? Can I even want to join the religious life? Can I even want friendships? Can I even want anything good? Am I allowed to? Because I have fallen so far. Psalm 37 says, delight yourself in the Lord and he will grant you the desires of your heart. It's, that verse that's all over everywhere, right? And a lot of people interpret that verse to mean if you turn to God, he will give you whatever you want, right? But another interpretation, and one that I like better, of that verse is if we delight ourselves in the Lord, he will grant us desires. He will place good desires within us, right? Because the goal is not to numb our passion. The goal is not to numb our passion, not to get rid of it, but to subject them to reason. That's how we beat addiction. Not by getting rid of our passions. Those are human. We were made with them. But by subjecting those passions to a reason guided by faith. And this is part of why fasts and penances and other disciplines like that can only go so far, right? And there's a time and place for them. But we can discipline the heck out of ourselves, but the passions will always rise up again. And when we see that, we can feel defeated again. But that's the human condition. So the goal is always to subject those passions, those desires, to order and to reason, and not to try to get rid of them. And too often when we turn to fasting and penances and other disciplines to overcome these addictions, our goal isn't order and it isn't sacrifice. It's a killing of desire. It's a burying, right? We're trying to teach ourselves to, never ever want. Even when it comes to our sexuality, never desire sex. That's wrong, right? But that's not true. It's okay to want that in the context of a good, loving, holy marriage, right? It's okay to want that expression. We naturally want it as human beings. What's not okay is to make someone a victim of that want. What's not okay is to lust, right? But at the core, I can guarantee you, your desires are good. And you have to do a deep dive to find that. So what do you want? Is it a job? Is it to finish school? Is it to go back to school? Is it a marriage, family, travel, relationship, friendship, community, promotion? What do you want? Perhaps you want to spend some time in prayer thinking about that, praying about that. Or maybe you just want to think to yourself right now, what do I want? And we can go beyond wanting these big things. We can go down to the little things, right? Like, today I want to go on a run later. I want to make a really good dinner. I want to connect with a friend over coffee tomorrow. I want to go to mass on Sunday. Right? Those simple little desires. Those are good. And you have them every day. They're proof that you can desire a good thing. And so that's my question to you. If you first admit this to me, is what are your desires? What are your desires? Because they tell me a lot more about who you are than the fact that you're addicted to pornography or masturbation, or you can't stop sleeping around, hooking up, can't stop fantasizing. That doesn't tell me much about who you are, but your dreams, your desires do. So let's talk about those first on this virtual coffee date of ours, right? And on the flip side, to close up, if you are the woman on the receiving end of this conversation and you have never struggled, right? And you're on the receiving end of another female friend telling you this, it can feel really awkward. Because can feel really awkward. The first person I told back in high school was my best friend. And she didn't have the same struggles I did. But looking back, it was her response with just such mercy and such grace that made me believe it was okay to admit it to a lot of people. And so I have heard a thing for that. So if you're on the receiving end of this conversation and you're out to coffee with a friend of yours and she says, hey, I'm addicted to porn and I've never told anybody, or whatever people really say when they're not trying to record a podcast, respond with love, with mercy. Thank them for telling you. And I hope to do a future episode with a couple of friends to talk about how to navigate these conversations from both sides, right? Either how to tell the people you love that you're addicted to porn, or to receive that the person you love is addicted to porn or other sexual sins. But receive them with mercy and with love and with gratitude. And then ask them what they want. Ask them what their desires are. Ask them what their dreams are. And you know them, you're their friend, you're their sister, right? You know who they are. And the job is always to remind each other of that. So tune in next week for part 2 of the coffee date series. And these are going to be more brief because it's me and a microphone by myself. And cranking out 20 to 30 minutes of content when it's just you and a microphone is a little weird, especially to kick this off. But tune in next week for part 2 of the coffee date series. Thanks for joining the conversation today on the Magdala Podcast. If you want to learn more, join a support group with other women on the journey, or find more content, visit magdalaministries.org. If you want to continue to be a part of the conversation, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. But most importantly, wherever you are in the journey of healing, know that you're not alone and you don't have to hide anymore. We're excited to welcome you to the table next time. God bless.